to its end, which is all the more reason for us to be more aware and more cautious. So here we are with this session with Dr. Vishal Rao. I would hand it over to Professor Nitesh Bansal, the Registrar for Rishikesh University, to introduce you to Dr. Vishal and proceed with this extremely informative session. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box to us and we shall get back to them during the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashwara, for starting for today's webinar. It gave me immense pleasure to introduce my friend, Dr. Vishal Rao, who is currently the head of Neck Surgical and Oncology Robotic Surgery and Associate Dean for Center of Academic Research at Healthcare Global Cancer Center at Bangalore. Dr. Rao is the man behind India's first clinical trial using convalescent plasma to treat coronavirus. He advises the state to build a wall between people who test positive and negative to coronavirus so that we can slowly open up our economy. Dr. Rao is a TEDx speaker and an inventor of our own device, prosthesis, a $1 speaking device for the throat cancer patients, an innovation that has been considered among the 100 global social innovation across the globe and received wide recognition from BBC, Harvard Business Review, and the Forbes magazine. He is a member of consultative group to the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India. He is an international advisor to WHO Tobacco Free Initiative. Today, during the conversation, we are going to discuss about journal hygiene practice post-lockdown and how it will change the way we do things and how will the new word different from what it was before. So Dr. Vishal, thank you so much for accepting our request and joining us today for this conversation. I hope you can hear us now, Dr. Vishal.
Yes, I can. Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, Vishal. Thank you so much. And I know it will be a busy schedule. You are still working and you come out of a meeting to do this webinar. You are sitting in the premises of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. I think that's my alma mater where I graduated and did my post-graduation along with you. And you being a senior has always inspiring us. So Vishal, welcome to Rishikesh University. Thanks for taking us your time to join the School of Healthcare.
Thank you.
Our philosophy also is for impact, like education for impact, where we actually give social factors of importance, where we work towards making leaders and society leaders who can lead the way and make an impact on the society as a whole. And your kind of innovation and work you're doing in healthcare, it's amazing. And we all thank you for your work, what you have been doing and contributing to your society. Thank you, Vishal, for taking us through. Let me just ask you your thoughts and idea about this unprecedented time because of COVID-19. What you have to share with our audience today on this?
Nitesh, thank you, first of all, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to sit and interact with you and discuss on some of those burning issues that we discussed yesterday. So a couple of things that I want to, first of all, say is, this is a very interesting thing that I'm sitting in one university talking to another university. So our Vice Chancellor today had called us for a small meeting where we actually discussing on hosting a medical hackathon for COVID. So we actually brought out ideas together on what can we do to actually bring out the philosophy of what we call reverse mentoring. And that's what I want to start with, actually discussing, because this is another university. Today we are in a very interesting time when actually we believe there is a need for reverse mentoring, where the professor doesn't teach the student, but the student may require to teach the professor. And this is the kind of paradox we're going to be living in this current scenario. Very, very interesting time for us. So I think I would like to begin on that note for COVID, that COVID has changed everything, including the way we mentor ourselves. So I know our students are teaching us how to use Instagram, Zoom, Cisco, WebEx, or any of the tech gadgets. So we've all moved towards a complete new platform today. And that's thanks to the challenges that COVID has laid before us. So I think beginning this entire thing, you already said the world has changed by one single virus. It's very interesting because the forewarnings for this event was very clear by very, very eminent people across the world over years. But yet all of us ignored it. I was watching the TED talk by Bill Gates in 2015, where he actually, it looks like he was an astrologer who had actually predicted everything. He had actually seen everything of this and he had actually said this is going to happen. I saw videos by Bush, I saw videos by Obama telling about this, yet we didn't see it coming. And the one thing that comes to me at fact today, I keep telling this to my governments here, that look, if we know karate, Okay, when somebody attacks you, you can make a defense and you can actually show a move. But if you don't know karate, you cannot say, I'll watch a YouTube video and kick that fellow. It's too late. Now that is where we were all across the world taken by a blindside. That is precisely what happened with COVID. None of us knew karate and we've all started watching the video.
And that's why
And
we
that is
have
what,
people like you who can teach us karate now.
and this is a very interesting time. In fact, I'm learning karate myself from so many other experts. The one thing that COVID has brought us together and to teach us is nobody is an expert today. And I'm sitting with so many scientists across the world talking together. The one thing which we unanimously agree is we don't know. And I'm saying a virologist, an immunologist, a cell biologist, a pathologist, a pulmonologist, a physician, an infectious disease specialist, a clinical trial expert, a surgeon, a hospital administrator. All of these have come together, and yet the answer when you sit together is I don't know it fully. And that's the truth of COVID.
I know I have Vishal at his best when he say unanimously everybody agrees that we don't know it. So that's what now I think. So, Vishal, can you share us a little bit about your work, what you have been doing till now? I think I heard a lot about it. It was all over media, newspaper, electronic media, when you invented this device called Om, which was actually a remarkable invention. It took the word, in a different way, where you gave a device which is less than $1. People can start speaking, and then you reach out to masses. So can you tell us something about your invention on that before we went into our real topic of COVID today?
So, yeah, surely. In fact, Nitish, I went through the entire brochure of Rishihood and I was really liking the aspect of creativity. I think you have a creative school. And I was really thinking I should request you and apply for creativity in your university, I love this subject because I think this is a very interesting and a complex subject, which has fascinated me. And creativity is all about cross collaboration and innovations as the foundation for it. So even in Om, it was the similar kind of a scenario. It's a very long story, but to just kind of cut it short, we actually innovated this entire device because we believed speech and communication is a basic tenet that sustains life force, and it's not a right to peace, justice, freedom, or dignity. So we believe everybody. See, me and you have been gifted a voice box for free. God didn't charge us कि आपको इतना पैसा देंगे तो ही आपको voice में दूंगा. He gave it to us for free. But yet there were only two brands in this world which actually said that at $700 to $1,000 you will speak or you won't speak. So the whole idea that came was from a security guard who actually came and told me that he wanted to be at his daughter's wedding and he wanted to speak at there. And that kind of incited a series of events that led to innovations by me and my partner Shashank joining together and working together. So, the strange connect in this was that Shashank is my biking friend. He has nothing to do with my profession. He walked into my OPD after the security guard that day. It was as though the destiny had actually tuned in to say that some event is going to happen. And after this security guard walks out, Shashank walks in to say hi and to say that they were looking at some biking trips and asked me if I wanted to join in. And that particular point, I was chatting with Shashank and I asked him, I said, Shashank, why don't we do a bike ride to raise some money for this patient, to the security guard? And Shashank laughed and said, yeah, how long are you going to do something like this? Why don't you do something on your own? And that time it was a very strange thought. And I said, see, वैसे तो ये time मिलता नहीं है काम करने के लिए. Now you are saying do something on your own. I said, I know the in and out of it, but I don't have the technical team working with me. Now the funny part was Shashank and me, we've been so close together, but we hardly speak time about talking about what we do. So a lot of the times you go out, you're biking or you're riding, and we don't ask each other what do you do, तुम्हारा biodata क्या है, your profile क्या है. We just ride, we come back. We don't even sometimes ask people their names. So this was our funny story that I asked him. I said, but who do you think can help? And he's looking at himself and he's saying me. And I'm like, I said, what do you do? And that's how it started the conversation. And he's saying, look, I'm a silicon expert. I'll be able to help you in building these devices. And we started that for 2 years and we were able to build something which I believe was accessible, affable, and affordable. And I want to tell you one single philosophy that drove us, that I believed, and I keep saying this, that when you do charity, if it is without pain, it is for Facebook. Okay. And charity with pain is sacrifice. Okay, now I'll give you a very nice example for this, that I keep saying this to my friends, that when you get a beggar on a signal, when you are sitting in that signal in your car, and the man walks to you, you look at him and then you give him a penny, or like a rupee or a 5 rupee, and then you look at him and say, boss, iske haath pair to hai, then why is he not working? These are the kind of philosophies we have. Now I tell my friends that why not give him 100 rupees? See how much it pains you. You may want his biodata or CV also at the signal. You may want to stop there and check it if you want to give a 100 rupee note for him. Now it pains us when we give, and we are the only elements in nature who receive more than we give, human beings. I somewhere felt that our sacrifice was to give that patent away. And we are ardent, I'm an ardent believer of copyleft, not copyright. And I believe that is the simple way by which we can make this world a better place. So that's how we started this. And today I'm happy that 350 people are speaking with this device. Some who haven't spoken for like 10 years, 14 years were again talking with this simple innovation. And it has made a small difference to people's lives. So we keep going on, and there's a lot that lies ahead of us. So we are optimistic that we'll be able to do something better.
I think we are grateful to humankind, where we have people like you who think about society, not only about helping people, but being with your
ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ ಉಂಟು, ಅದನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬನ್ನಿ, ನನ್ನ ಚಾರ್ಜರ್ ಬೇಕು.
I think this is something very remarkable what you have been doing it, Vishal, and I'm sure all of us will be never able to pay you back the kind of services what you're providing. So coming to another topic as per se for today's discussion, unlocking this lockdown, and I'm sure we are close to that position where a lockdown is going to be lifted and we all have to come up with solution. So what's your thought about once we start working? I don't know whether there is something called normal now which is going to come, or it is going to be part of our life. So what is your thought? I think what main factor what's going to contribute is how do we lead our individual workplaces, whether it is a university, whether it's a hospital, whether it is a software company or a small shop, or even at the family. I think the leadership has to be something which needs to be changed, and all of us needs to think about it. So what are your thoughts about how the new leadership is going to be post this lockdown?
Okay, sorry, I think I got muted again.
Yeah.
Nitesh, the one thing that I would like to reiterate again and tell is about this virus. And I think that's just for all of us to know who are participating here, that we cannot underestimate this virus. That has to be clearly understood, that you cannot underestimate this virus. And the reason I'm saying this is, when we typically assess a virus, we look at the R naught of a virus, or what we call the R0, which is the capacity of the virus to reproduce, which is the capacity of the virus to grow. Now, in a general rule, when the R naught of a virus is less than 1, it dies a natural death. When the R naught of a virus is 1, it stays for some time. And when the R naught of a virus is more than 1, then it becomes a pandemic. So what we know today is that the R naught of this virus is about 2.5 to 3. To some places, it's gone up to 7. So this is definitely something that can't be ignored. Today, if you look at the figures from United States, the USA figures at Jan 24th, there was 1 new case per day. In Feb 24, there were totally about 18 odd cases per day. And by March, this was about 30,000 cases new per day. That is what has happened over months. That means over 1 month period. So this virus cannot be ignored. This virus is absolutely aggressive, worrisome, and this is spreading. And today, I think United States stands at about 15 lakh odd cases and 90,000 deaths. So that particular wrong assumption to take this virus lightly should not be done, because countries have been suffering very majorly by taking it lightly. And the other very important thing that I would like to share is that this war cannot be won in the hospital. This war has to be won at home or at work with social distancing, with hygiene, and not in the hospital. If you've reached the hospital, you have lost the game in this virus.
So I think this is what we need to understand. When you said that it has to be fought at the level of homes, workplaces, and at the place social gathering. So what are your thoughts? What the leaders of these places, being a leader of a family, being a leader at a workplace, being a social leader, what all we need to do? What changes this virus will bring into our leadership scenario and the way we lead people?
So today sorry, just one second. I just want to charge my
I know. I
computer.
think you need to put your. I'm sorry, audience. I think Dr.
So-
Vishal, we need to be grateful to him. He has come to he's borrowed a place in the Vice Chancellor's office and Registrar's office to do this webinar for us. Thank you so much, Vishal. Please.
Thank you. No. So, Nitesh, the one thing that stands out today, and I've been talking to experts from Harvard, I've been talking to experts from across the world. The one thing that stands out today is a very interesting concept called the pandemic protocol. And this is a very interesting thing that we all need to be aware about, that during this kind of a scenario, the pandemic protocol calls for leadership from behind. Because real leaders need to, at this point in time, this is also called the wolf theory, that if you see the herd of wolves, the real leaders go from behind, because they are marshalling the troops, and they are the ones that are looking at the entire thing from behind. And today, I was talking to our health minister, who's one among those people who actually stood from behind and said, this is an area which I think is beyond my purview of a subject. I want the core people to come forward, come together, sit together and lead it. That is called leadership from behind. And today, this is going to be required at the level of governments. This is going to be required at the level of organizations and institutions to come together and talk about leadership from behind. Because this is not something that we're going to achieve from front. No single leader can go forward and say, I will be able to tackle this. It has to be leadership from behind. And this is what is popularly called the pandemic protocol, that you have to take leadership from behind. And this is what I was alluding to earlier as the reverse leadership. We will need to take lessons from people who are really experts. So today, if you see, I'm saying, me as a person, if you're telling me Vishal is doing something, it is wrong, because I am actually backed by a 20-member team that is actually every day guiding me. I'm a part of such core groups where I know every single thing that I'm a doubt about. I go back to that team and I sit down with the experts in that team. I kind of discuss with them. They teach me. They actually help me say that, okay, this is what you need to learn. This is what you don't need to learn. So it's a very interesting area that we need to understand, that leadership today is going to be about leadership from behind, one. And the second thing I would say is, this is the time that leadership is going to be tested to its pinnacle. Why I'm saying is, I keep saying this, the first month is going to be the month of the month of salary cuts. The next month is going to be of job cuts. And the third month, God forbid, could be the month of pocket cuts with burglary and crimes increasing. So it is also going to be up to leadership in organizations today to handle it, not only just through economy, but also through philosophy. Because this virus is going to lead us into psychological impacts, behavioral impacts, and economic impact. All three are going to change. The way you're going to deal with yourself at home is going to change psychologically. It is going to lead to depressions, anxiety, worry. It's going to lead to it. And we are all humans. We are all going to go through it. Me as a doctor, I'm saying, for the last 2 months, I've been in a kind of quasi quarantine, because I stay in a separate room away from my family. I can't even just go close to my kid or my family or my wife. It takes a psychological toll on you. It's not easy, because you are isolated. You are just emotionally cut off. And what you are seeing today is the workload may be reducing by a certain percentage, but the pressure has tripled. Every single patient looks like he is a positive patient. For you in the market, every single patient seems to be a suspicious COVID patient. Your mind is psychologically so disturbed that in and around you are all COVID people. Who is right, who is wrong, you don't know. And that is what is happening psychologically. It is defeating us. This virus has defeated us. Behaviorally, your behaviors are going to change. So you have moved from travel to sitting at home, and you're realizing that you can do the same thing at home. You are moving from paper to web. You are moving from signature to digital signature. Every single thing of your behavioral aspect is changing. So it is going to have a psychological toll. It is going to have a behavioral toll and a complete behavioral readaptation. And lastly, a very significant economic toll. This blow has started together, and this is a global blow together. So we are not going to recover to it in another year or two. We need to be building up innovative ways at this time, and that is left to leadership to come out with new ways of building the economy. This is not going to be the same old way. You will not be able to build it the same old way. You will have to innovate in a rapid pace. And I classically give the example that in a pit stop in an F1 race, you achieve a pit stop in 1.8 seconds or less. I think the Bura or some other races, they were able to achieve it in 1.08 seconds. So I say, if you can achieve a pit stop in 1 second, you should be able to innovate faster than that, save a life faster than that, and game change faster than that. This is the time for what we call the pitch stop. You need to pitch at such a fast pace, and that's how universities, organizations, incubators are all coming together to redefine new ways, redefine new leaderships.
I think when you talk about this disadvantage, I think we also see a lot of advantages and a lot of opportunities to come together and innovate. And let's try a new thing where we can come together and innovate things about how do we handle this kind of a pandemic? How do we take out new ways of fighting things? How we take out new things when we come together and success in a new dimension. So I think there's something new which we have in challenge. Coming back to your points, since you said that leadership will be, they have a lot of impact behaviorally, socially, and also economically. So what are your thoughts on how the economy will look like after this lockdown? Stali, I'm sure it cannot be done overnight. It has to be something in a gradual fashion. What's your thought on what steps we need to take to make it, to ensure the economy doesn't go such a bad shape that we will never be able to recover again?
So there are two thoughts I want to share, and before that, I want to actually share a larger aspect of the philosophy on this. I don't know if you have read this book called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I need you to pick this up today. This is one of the most beautiful books I've read. Long back, I think about 10 years back, the WHO, one of the directors, gifted me this book and said that Vishal, you should read this book. It's called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. He alludes to a very beautiful concept called stratagem. Okay, he says about not strategy but a stratagem, where he says that sometimes you need to win the war without fighting, and that really is what we call as a stratagem, not a strategy. Nitish, you have been a king of strategy. You've taught us a lot of strategies. That's why I'm telling you this. So a stratagem is when you actually win a war without fighting, and this is very, very important and very relevant. And the reason I'm saying that is because that you cannot win this virus in a linear way by just saying that you're going to try it in this fashion. The most important thing that you'll have to, one of the key things that you'll have to look at, like I told you, the psychological, the behavioral, and the economic, all three of these are interlinked. And unless you create a stratagem that defines the three together, you are going to lose it if you're going to try and build only one. So I believe it has to be all three together. Your psychological aspect, the behavioral aspect, and the economic aspect have to be interwound in a very interesting stratagem. And that is an opportunity, and that is a threat also. So you do your SWOT analysis, you realize that itself is the key. Now, the threat, like I told you, is salary cut, pay cut, the job cut, and then pocket cut. This is what is going to happen in a linear fashion if we don't act. If we do not act, this is going to happen in a phase-wise manner in the next coming month. So I have my friend who yesterday sitting in my house chatting with me told me, Vishal, my company had 23 branches, 21 are now shut. We have got 2 left. I've laid down 1,600 people. This is the truth. Now, if this is going to happen, if these are the kind of things that are going to happen, because there is going to be absolute panic in economy. If now, they are deeply pained, they are frustrated, they are not able to handle the blow that they've had. And this came unprepared to us. So I must tell you, March 11th, I was supposed to be for the United Nations meeting, which was hosted by Mr. Michael Bloomberg and Dr. Tedros, the World Health Organization's Director General, and Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. I was supposed to be in London on March 11th. I was all set. March 5th, I get an email from them saying that you should continue. The meeting is on. We are no changes in the meeting. And we request you, and my presentations and all were ready. I had emailed it to them. We were all set. And just 2 days later, I get an email from them that the health minister was affected of Britain. And the meeting was postponed. So this is a thing that has not left countries, hierarchies, ministers, royal families. It has just affected everybody alike. And at that juncture, I started working on it, because at that juncture, the WHO told me, look, unless we actually act upon it together, and Mr. Michael Bloomberg is the current UN ambassador for the world, they all got together. We were all on certain calls and discussing and understanding that if we don't act now, we will never be able to act. So, a lot of my interventions in plasma therapy, cytokines, and other things that I'm doing today, I started at March 7th. So that is why I'm ready today. I did not start it yesterday. I started it in March 7th. And that is when I believe that we changed this game.
Great. I think you saw it coming, but probably I think, as you rightly said, that the virus took us unaware, and none of us were ready, not even thinking about it. So tell us, since you brought this issue point now in the conversation, it's very important. And I think all of us are hearing all over the media about this plasma therapy. Can you share about it? What exactly? And I know you are the one who has got the permission to do the human trial. So can you please tell us about what exactly is all about?
So, if any of you have done a blood donation earlier in the participants, you will know that when you give blood, you give it once in 3 months, and they take 500 ml of your blood. Now, your blood comprises of two parts, plasma and cells. The plasma comprises of 55% and the cells comprise of 45%. Now, when you have a viral attack, the virus enters through your nose or through your mouth, enters into the lungs, and from there gets into your blood. At that juncture, your blood has certain cells which are called the immune cells or the white blood cells, which will start secreting some antibodies and can kill the virus. So the word convalescent plasma means, the word convalescence means a person who's recovering from an illness. So when a person recovers from the illness, his blood is producing certain antibodies which can kill the virus, which means his blood has medicinal properties. What those are in whichever combinations, we don't know as of now, but we know that his blood has certain medicinal components. Can we, using the blood of a person who has recovered from this illness, treat a person who is critically ill, was the question. So this is something that has been known way back from the 1900s, from the 19th century, when one of the German physiologists had actually described this. But it took until 2012 when WHO actually approved it to say that this is a potential theory in Ebola pandemic. So the question was, is it going to be useful for COVID? So when we actually initiated this application to the government of India, it was a 239-page application that we initiated way back again in March 10th. We started this work because we realized that 2012 Ebola was given, so we thought, why not initiate this entire thing? And the WHO team were telling us that you should look at this entire thing. A lot of international universities where we were talking with them. Elsevier had become our academic partners then. So the Elsevier's entire team was bombarding me every day with material saying, okay, you should be looking at this is what is ongoing. So we started our application then, thinking we should evaluate this. And we got our permission. We've now got a permission for a phase 1 clinical trial, for which there are 3 centers that have been recognized in the world by WHO. One is our center, the second one is in Chicago, and the third one is in Hungary, and there are another 8 that they are evaluating right now. The philosophy of this is that the blood of one person can be a medicine to another critical person, and we know as of now that this can be helpful. So we are currently working towards trying to see if that can be helped.
So basically, Vishal, you're saying there are only 3 centers across the globe, and yours is one of them, and you are the only one in India right now who's doing this kind of a thing.
For phase 1 clinical trial. And the ICMR has initiated phase 2, which is going to be starting soon, but phase 1, which is assessing safety of the product, is being done by us now.
I think your idea of reading that book have initiated a lot of interest. Can you just repeat the name of that book once again for our audience who have joined us late?
It's called Sun Tzu's Art of War. The Art of War.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful, thought-provoking book,
right,
which has various leadership qualities that we talk about today. And I believe in the pandemic protocol that we're dealing with, it's one of the most inspiring books that you can actually go back as a ready reckoner to understand what can you do at this point in time.
Absolutely. I think
so another very beautiful lesson that from that book that I must share with you is, it says that every time that we deal with war, there is an army, there is a general, and there is a sovereign. Now, all 3 have to be in alignment. And the army reports to the general reports to a sovereign. And unless the sovereign has the vision and the leadership to allow the army to take certain leadership, this is what we call the reverse mentorship or the pandemic protocol for leadership from behind. And that is what is required now.
I think this is something very amazing, and I'm sure all of us will go back and pick up this book and read about it. Thank you so much for sharing that.
And just want to add one thing, I remembered a very interesting thing during the World War, which Lincoln had written. Lincoln was very upset with his army general for not having listened to some of his instructions at war. So apparently the story goes that he wrote a very, very nasty letter to him, actually writing to him about how he was terribly dismayed with him and how he how he rebutted the whole aspect of how he has not respected his decisions and blah, blah, blah. And this letter was found in his drawers years later, which he never sent to that general. So Lincoln would often do this, that he would realize that he was terribly irritated and upset with his people sometimes, but he understood the importance of certain leadership from behind. And he would say that he may not have understood what the reality of the scenario is at the grassroots level. And hence you just need to back these people up, because what he thinks and what the person at the grassroots reality is seeing may be different.
Right.
And that's what Karnataka has helped us do through these pandemic protocols, that we know at the grassroots level, the doctor who's going to face it, the healthcare worker, is going to be much, much different from what a minister may be sitting and envisaging. So today, if you see our ministers, the way they have gone down to the grassroots to understand the thing and allowed certain things to happen, is it may not be the ideal way as per the book or as per what the guidelines say, but some of them have to be tuned in to kind of contour ourselves for a current scenario.
Right. Absolutely. Now, moving on to Vishal, as you know, we are presuming, all of us are presuming, and you also are hinting towards that there's going to be a new normal definition when we all start working, maybe tomorrow, next week, next month, or 2 months from now. So all of us, I'm sure, must be worried about, as you said, whenever we walk on the street, every person we see is a suspected COVID patient. So how do you suggest that, what strategy or steps we must take as an employer or as a leaders when if we find there is a co-worker who is affected from COVID, or there is a suspected case, or what protocol we should follow at our institution, respective institution, not only in university, at any workplace, any organization where we have more than 2 or 3 people working together. So what should be, I know you have done a lot of work and you've come up with a lot of policy guidelines on that. Can you share a little bit more about that?
So one of the most disturbing data that Karnataka found in our analysis was that younger people are more vulnerable than elderly people. This is something which you all should know, that age group of 20 to 40 is the most vulnerable, and the age group of 65 plus is the most lethal. So which means the person who is going to be in the 20s to 40s, if he goes back home, he will be infecting the elders. So please protect the elders if you are going to be all out there. This is very important for us to understand. And among the elders especially, what we found is the most fatal group was the group of the people with comorbidities, which means the non-communicable diseases, which means patients with heart disease, lung disease, patients with diabetes, patients with cancer, patients with liver disease. These are the people who are going to be the most vulnerable. And it's very, very important for you to understand that these patients cannot be ignored. So non-communicable diseases will suffer from communicable disease. One of the important lessons we've learned today is not to ignore it. Number 2 is the only answer currently social distancing. The only answer currently is to maintain hygiene. At the same time, as much as possible, avoid personal contacts. So, I will share this document with you. I think I've already shared some of it, that we need to have a policy for leadership in the organization. We need to have a policy for students or employees, and we need to have a policy for products or customers. This is very important to have 3 separate policies. And I've been telling this because I've been helping a lot of these businesses to guide through our teams that with various business experts team of IIM, or whether it is Harvard, or whether several of them, to actually tell them, let's come up with policies such as this. What do you do for leadership teams? How do they actually handle crisis? How does employees handle it? And how does the products and customers handle it? These are various categories that you need to devise. And each one of them, you have to create a strategic plan to look at every step of staggering. What is it that you can do to prevent? What is it that you can do if he turns positive? And what is it that you do to treat? These are 3 steps that we will need to follow. Prevention, I think, is the only key. We should not even go for detection and treating. However, it's a likely scenario that it may happen. So preventing, how can it be done? Through social distancing, through social norms. And one of the very important messages that I've been talking to various organizations across is, how do you remain productive in the time of Corona? Very, very crucial for you to understand, because, and this is going to be a challenge for you, I'm sure in Rishiyod you're going to face as a registrar today, to how do you maintain productivity of this university? If you today are faced with this unique challenge, that if you have to make this university among the top global renowned universities in the next 1 month, what can you do to change this game? Now, I think that's a challenge you will be posed with. And that is a challenge I request, Nitesh, that you'll have to live up to also. With your school of creativity, with all of you, you'll have to come together and say, this is the time I'm going to maintain every student to be productive. Now, what if you throw this challenge to the entire younger lot and say, come on, show us how can you be productive? You need to excel. You can't stop this world. The world has to move on, and the world has to move on in a completely new way. And maybe, like somebody rightly said, is humanity the virus and corona the vaccine? We don't know. What corona is trying to make us do, we really don't know. So is this going to be that watershed line that is going to change the way we're going to leapfrog into something new? So very nice example that I must tell you. I was at Harvard Business School some time back, and a very interesting topic came up of leapfrogging innovations. So one of the most interesting examples that I found was Africa did not have landlines, but suddenly one day went into mobile. So they did not go the conventional route that USA went through, which is the Graham Bell's phone to the landlines to the cordless phones and then to the mobile. They just jumped to a mobile because they didn't have lines. Now that's what is called as leapfrogging. I think today every university, every organization, institute has a potential capability to leapfrog. And that is what is required today by organizations, to leapfrog. The question is, how are you going to remain productive? So I threw a challenge to my team. I'm the associate dean. I was requesting my team to say, come on, let's say, how can we be productive at the time of corona today? Show me what can we do in this 1 month. So I'm seeing March 7th, we started our challenge. I called that the pitch stop, and I told them, I said, come on, let's see every month, every day, what are we going to do? If you ask me in the last last 1.5 months, from March 7th till now, we've had 3 therapies that we've innovated. The plasma therapy, which we've already initiated, the cytokine therapy, which we are the only clinical trial today registered in the world, okay, on cytokine therapies, which is a naturally occurring blood therapy that we've innovated. We've got mesenchymal stem cells primed, which is another innovative therapy we proposed for patients who are in terminally ill lung disease status. We are working on 12 new devices, which will actually solve the problem of the cost of PCR from 15 lakhs to 50 lakhs to bring it down to 2 lakhs or something like that. The cost of testing to be brought down to 500 rupees or less. We've had 13 publications in international journals that we have done. In addition to that, our routine work continues. We've been continuing to treat patients through online consultations. We've set up, because they said a clinical trial cannot happen the routine way. Microsoft partnered with us to set up the first symmetric platform for virtual clinical trials, which is the first in India. Now I'm happy. When I sit back to my chairman, I say, look, I think I remain productive. But yet your salary will be cut. But that's a separate story. But I'm saying you need to remain productive. Now, the point is,
please go ahead.
I think that's a challenge. That's a challenge that we will need to throw before our students, before our youngsters, to say, come on, how are you going to be productive at this time and inspire everybody?
No, I think that's very inspirational. I think what you do, that one message which I think very valid for all of us who are listening to you right now, whatever the circumstances, we need to be productive. We need to not to lose hope, and we need to keep striving for the best and the better. That's the thing which is going to take us out of this time. What very important statement what you made, and I don't want listener to miss on that, whether humanity is a virus and corona is actually vaccine for. It is something which I think all of us need to go back and think about it, what you exactly meant by saying that, and very relevant in today's time. Vishal, other thing which I want to touch with you, you mentioned in the beginning of your speech, something called as reverse mentoring. I think today's date, when we are hearing about we need mentors, we need this calling kind of a thing. Before I went to your copyleft, which I have been very fond of your concept of copyleft, yes. And I want you to touch this in this conversation also. But before we go to this, can you tell us a little more about reverse mentoring system, how a youngster, how a tech savvy, or whom we call millennium, can help us in this kind of a circumstances when we open this lockdown? What are the things what you think we should be taking care of? And I know that your passion towards, innovating with new things has been there from a college life. I remember my college days when we used to see you with all kind of fancy gadgets, and you used to be considered as innovator at those days also, when there was no even, forget about the WhatsApp, there was no MMS as well. And I think in those days when we started using mobile and you used to show us a pass, there was no SMS as well. It was only used to call.
Yeah.
So I think this reverse mentoring, what you mentioned in the beginning of your speech, holds a very valid point in today's time. So can you elaborate a little more on that?
So again, what I spoke was, this is the time of innovation. This is the time which I believe is of reverse mentoring. Reverse mentoring, because I believe that the youngsters will teach the olders. So I'll tell you, 10 years back, again, in one of the WHO meetings, somebody gifted me a very beautiful book called Rules for Radicals. It's a very beautiful book. I think it was banned at that time in the USA. But this book is a very interesting book. This book had a very interesting connotation to a conversation between a father and a son, where the father is telling the son, look, don't try to do this. You will understand it when you get older. And the son says, Dad, I want to do this. I hope you feel a little younger. And that is what is the bridge today. The bridge today will be about understanding how can we cross innovate, how can youngsters play a role in teaching the senior lot and leapfrogging in innovations. And today is classically the area. I was talking to one of my friends who's an innovator, and he was telling me this youngster came to me and taught me these 5 things on how to do this in this way. He said, you didn't even know this, and I just didn't know. So this is the time again for leadership from behind. This is the time for us to show that youngsters can maybe lead the way. The generation next needs to come and show us new things, what they wanted. And that is one of the things that I'm sitting in the university today here for, talking to my vice chancellor, saying, sir, let's ask the youngsters, why can't the first year medical student be an entrepreneur? And why can't he fund his own education? Why not? Why does he have to become a professor to do this? So we do one sessions with the Tuck Business School, and in one of those sessions with Harvard, where I had actually interacted, where I give a talk on 20 minutes to disruption. In these particular meetings, I get a lot of global CEOs who come, and one of the most interesting things was my interaction with the Rolls-Royce CEO. Okay, I didn't know he was a part of this particular audience. He was there in this talk of mine, and he walked to me, and we had a nice chat. And towards the end, he asked me, he says, I would love that you work with me. And I said, sir, I love your car, but I really don't know what slot will you give me. So he said to me, he said, Vishal, we have a slot called the non-domain expert, which means you should know nothing about the subject. Then we would like to hire you. So I said, I found this concept very fascinating. He said that a very interesting thought. He said that today education has killed our thinking. It has ruined us to a great extent, which is why we are not able to think. So they were actually looking at non-domain experts who know nothing about the subject, because we believe today in the 20th century, knowledge was power. And in the 21st century, ignorance is power today. So if you don't know something about a subject, I think you're brilliant. You can actually come and be a part of a team and guide people. So what many of them did in this conversation, I was chatting with them. So Rolls-Royce was showing me about one of the most fascinating models that they were actually building. And they were actually chatting that today they don't sometimes go to engineers to ask for a design. They actually go to schools to children to ask them, can you draw something nice and fascinating? Because otherwise the engineer is going to draw the same old design. So this is what I call, I think, the complete new generation that is going to be built up on reverse mentoring, on disruptive innovations. And this is going to be what we call this is another philosophy called the Occam's razor, which means when you're faced with a very complex solution, find a simple, when you're faced with a very complex problem, find a simple solution. Don't complicate the solution also. Don't be a politician and complicate it.
Vishal, very valid point. And I think we subscribe to this philosophy, like you said, School of Creativity, where we have this kind of innovation, where we nurture this kind of innovation. We have School of Entrepreneurship, where in fact, I would like to share with you. In School of Entrepreneurship, our curriculum has been like, you have to establish a company, run a business. That will be your deciding factor whether you are qualifying for this degree or not. We have School of Education, where we are not going to teach a conventional way of PPT or a whiteboard or a blackboard kind of a thing. Simultaneously, we have a healthcare, where we believe in learning by doing things, where we will be exposing our students to technology, the experts of new age, not that old traditional method which is available in the book and now available online. So these are the 4 areas. And I'm sure talking to you, we also have got a lot of ideas how do we innovate in our teaching process, because I personally believe, not necessarily that it's everybody's view, there is no education system in our country. What we have is the examination system, because everything what we do in universities or school revolves around that 3 hours of exams. So I think we need to change our thinking. As you rightly said, innovation, we have to go back to our roots and thinking about it. Another important aspect, I love this subject since the time I've heard from you about, I think 3 years ago, copyleft. Everybody's talking about copyright. And copyleft is something which is very important. I know it may not sound relevant for the lockdown point of view, but I think since you are here with us and it's very difficult to get you, So what do you think? What is your, I mean, how did this concept evolve? Copy left, what you have been talking about.
So just to add to the point, Nitesh, during this lockdown, I think it has been the most relevant. The idea of copyleft for me has been the most pertinent and the most relevant, because what I uncovered through this entire thing, and this is something which may not be, it may not be the most pleasing to the mind, but the reality which I found during this particular phase and the difficulties that I faced, see, was the amount of hurdles that came before us to actually achieve it. And lockdown pushed an innovator to his brim. So one thing that I realized was 90% of the world is good but doesn't act. 8% of the world is evil that doesn't want you to act. And 2% of the world are good people who act. Now that is why it's a difficult world that we live in. Now, in this balance, you'll need to actually make a mark. And one of the common things that I felt was that teamworks don't build up. So I remember I was talking to the former director of DRDO, and he actually was sitting with me. We were both chatting, and he actually has invented a few devices. We were both chatting on discussing on this, and he was so beautifully talking to me about those ideas as though he's just gifting it to me. Okay. A- And the whole confidence that comes from that idea of sharing, and this is why I keep re-emphasizing on copyleft, that the idea that you can share some of your ideas to make the world a better place is a very beautiful concept. Because I believe that a lot of us believe that our idea is most beautiful in the hand, and if it's like I'm saying, अरे यार मैं अभी नितेश को ये बता दूंगा तो नितेश इसको चुरा के Nobel Prize ले लेगा. So I don't want to share it with Nitesh. I'm jealous. I'm saying no. So I never share that idea with you, but you're the real talent who can actually build this idea. So when I first started this entire initiative of copyleft, I told my chairman I wanted to host this idea. He actually looked at me instead and he said, "Are you nuts? Who will come?" So I actually created a forum where people can steal each other's ideas and not feel bad about it. So he said, "This is a brilliant concept, but pathetic." He said, "Who will come for this kind of a program?" And I said, "Sir," I said, "allow me to do this." I said, "Let's see what happens." And we did this program, okay? And there were 90 people who were enthusiasts who wanted to steal each other's ideas. And it was brilliant. So 90 people came there, and scientists, experts, mathematicians all got together, and we actually hold this program. And I kept watching this program because the first time when we all shared each other's ideas very openly, the idea and the philosophy was, can the idea be a better place? And this is something that I again want to share. Why I also comes from one of my interactions with the Dalai Lama, which I interacted with. He told me something very beautiful, which I really resonated with his philosophy. He said, an idea comes to you, not from you. An idea comes to you, not from you. So an idea is contacting several people at the same time. It is only the receptive that get that idea and absorb it. How many times have you woken up, tell me sincerely, to a brilliant idea early in the morning, Googled it and said, "Arey, arey, ye to kisi ne already kar diya hai." You agree or not?
Exactly, completely.
And I think audience will also agree that how many of us wake up with that brilliant idea saying, "Arey, ye to, this is that Nobel Prize winning idea," and you Google it up and said, "The 30 लोगों ने already कर दिया." That's why the reality of the thing is that an idea comes to you and not from you. You are not the originator of the idea. An idea is reaching out to thousands of people at the same time. And I believe that it is that configuration that has to come together as teams. So what we did and nurtured around us was actually create this idea of sharing each other's idea. And what happened through that meeting is what I would like to tell you. A lot of brilliant people came out and shared their ideas. A lot of brilliant people came out, shared their ideas. And at the end of it, people dispersed. At the end of 3 months, I evaluated to see what happened to these guys. What I found was those people who went and stole the idea, some of them initiated that idea and started working on it. And at a critical point in time, came back to me and said, "Can you reconnect me with that person who gave that idea?" I said, "Why?" And they said, "You know what? I've reached till this point, but now I'm not able to move forward. I need that man." And that led to collaboration, not competition. So a true power of an idea is the power to implement it, not to have the idea. And I believe it is that power that is required. And the second thing that happened is a lot of innovators who were actually working on ideas got more inspiration. So it made the world a better place. So I always believe that that's the way it is. So somebody came and asked me, sir, aapka, I got a call from this gentleman, one of the innovators, who asked me, sir, aapka voice box ka idea I wanted to study because I'm also working on a similar voice box idea. I said, this is brilliant. So I told him, I said, look, I said, this is the design, this is the thing. I said, aap apna address bhej doge to I'll send you the prototypes, you please study it. So my junior sitting next to me got all irritable. I could see him get tremors in his hand. He was very upset with me, saying, sir, aapka dimag kharab ho gaya. And I said, क्या हो गया? I said, sir, आपने पूरा उसको बता दिया. I said, वो अभी तो कर देगा वो. I said, तो करना चाहिए. I said, so he asked me, he said, but isn't that stupid that you're giving everything there? I told him two important points. Number one is, look, if this man is really brilliant, he will be able to do this better than me, which means he's a better man than I am. Let us accept it and I'll work with him. But on the other hand, I can tell him confidently that I will beat him double faster. That is my level of confidence. So I said, imagine this. Now I have hired one person for free who is going to work for me. जो मेरे लिए दिन रात काम करेगा मेरे प्रोडक्ट को स्टडी करने के लिए और विदाउट मी गिविंग हिम मनी ही इज वर्किंग फॉर मी डे एंड नाइट एंड ही वांट्स टू बीट मी I am confident that by the time he beats me, I'll beat him double faster. So I'm actually enjoying this game and I want him to run. So let him run, I'll also run. But imagine that spirit, that what a speed you're working at right now. And this is what also Kenametal follows. Kenametal does this. They actually make they make these metal products. And the Pentagon asked them to actually make their own person stand with the bulletproof. So that their own bullet is tried on their own persons, so that they're confident on the product. And the Pentagon's work is to create a bulletproof that can penetrate that bullet. And then they give that bulletproof back to the Kenametal people and say, now make another bullet that will penetrate this also. So this is a constant kind of an ongoing copyleft competition.
No, I think there are two very important messages what you have left for us, especially during this period of when lockdown is over. One is we need not to be competitive with everybody. We can always complement each other in terms of collaborate and complement, and we can work out with a better solution. Second thing, there is always somebody who can do better than us, who knows more than us. I think that's a very pertinent thought what you have given to all of us, that post this lockdown, when we come back to workplaces again, we need not to see, or we need not to do something what we have been doing it usually. We need to really, as you said, we need to innovate and then collect and collaborate with other people, as we also think in a lot of forums we heard about this. With this thought, I'm sure, thank you so much, Vishal, for joining us today. I know you are sitting and using a Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science office today, and you have taken this time from your important meeting, what you're planning for future. Once again, on behalf of Rishi Hood University, all the promoters, all the deans, all the faculty members, and prospective students who will be joining us and exploring Rishi Hood as an option, we have School of Healthcare. We will need your help and guidance regularly, and since you have shown your so keen interest in our School of Creativity, I'm sure as a healthcare and creativity school, we can come together and contribute in something which will be for a larger audience. And next on, we have School of Entrepreneurship, where we can commercialize it, and School of Education, which will help us to spread the awareness about it. So I think we have all four hands together, where we'll use your expertise and your guidance to take us to a different level. Thank you so much, Vishal, for joining us today. I'm sure we'll keep coming back to you for more information and more guidelines and more your experience about handling all the other issues related to healthcare. This is Dr. Vishal Rao sharing his thoughts about how do we unlock this lockdown. Once again, on behalf of Rishi Hood University, providing us this platform, I thank you, each one of you, for joining us today. Thank you. Till the time we meet next, I request all of you to kindly stay home, stay safe, and keep being innovative in your respective field. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Nitesh. Thank you, Aishwarya. And I would like to end with just saying that you add one more aspect into your curriculum of freedom to fail, because I think that's a very important part of our curriculum. Freedom to fail is very, very crucial for us.
I think we are considering something like learning from failure, but I think you have that freedom to fail. This is something very important. I think now we must consider, and I'm sure we'll come back to you to have something more. We have one of our co-founder, Dr. Mahesh Gupta, with us, who is actually from a healthcare professional. Dr. Mahesh, welcome for this forum, and thanks for joining us today. Would you like to share some of your thought with Dr. Vishal, or you would like to say something on this forum? Sorry, Dr. Mahesh, your voice is not reaching us, so maybe.
Is it all right? I am audible now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Okay, Dr. Vishal, it is so wonderful to hear you, and particularly I am so overwhelmed that after a long time I found a person who looks exactly like me in thoughts. So we founded this Rishi Hood University which is beginning this session, and we like thought about it some 4 years ago. But before that, amongst our families, joint families, and friend circle, we used to run a program which is called Observation University. And it is exactly what you told, that the thought on an idea which comes to me is not from me, like it has come from observation around the world. Things are happening. So what we can draw out of that is our like imaginative or creativity. So,
Sure.
and these are the foundations of the kind of courses we are planning in Rishi University. So very, very nice to hear you. And I will ask Nitesh to give me your phone number. And I have certain more ideas of which the blueprint is ready. And I would definitely like to call you sometime so that you can steal my ideas. Or maybe
Sure.
pick a few from you.
Sure, sir. My pleasure. So kind of you, sir. Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Vishal. Aishwarya, over to you now.
Thank you, sir. It was great listening to you. I hope it was an insightful session for all of us. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And we'll get back to you with more such insightful sessions. Thank you, Professor Nitesh, for moderating it so well. And we'll get back to you soon with another session. Till then, stay safe and stay home. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Bansal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nitesh. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mahesh sir, thank you very much. We stay connected.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Dr. Vishal.
Bye.
Nice seeing you.
Bye.